Asara B'Tevet today it's actually the harshest fast day, in the sense that it's the day that originated all the problems that we all have, because everything begins with Churban Beit HaMikdash, with the destruction of the temple. And the reason why it was destroyed was, well, not the reason, but the historical side of things, is that Tisha B'Av commemorates the actual Churban, the actual destruction. Then there's Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, which is when they breached the walls. But then before that, there's Asara B'Tevet. Tzom Gedalia is actually later on, where they assassinates Gedalia ben Achikam. But the first of all the four fasts, in that sense, is Asara B'Tevet. What happened on Asara B'Tevet was Nebuchadnezzar had his armies surround Yerushalayim and besiege the city of Yerushalayim, so that the people inside were locked in. That was a 3-year siege, and then on the third year, on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, they breached the walls, and then they destroyed the Beit HaMikdash. That's why if Asara B'Tevet falls out, it's the only one that actually does fall out on a Friday. And if it does, we do fast. It's the one time you fast on a Friday. And technically we would fast if it was Shabbat, it just doesn't fall out on Shabbat. So it does have a pretty harsh side to it in that sense, in the sense that it's the source of everything. It's the beginning of all the problems. So on a fast day we say Slichot. And in the Slichot this morning, in the prayer, the Tefillah this morning, the words we used were this. It says, Avotai kivatchu b'shem Elokei tzuri, my fathers who trusted, who had bitachon, in the name of the rock, of my God, the rock. And they had Tzur Israel, right? The rock of Israel, Elokei tzuri. So our fathers, gadlu ve'itzlichu v'gam asu peri. They succeeded, and they grew, and they bore fruits. Me'et hudchu ve'alchu imo keri. As soon as they deviated, they went away from the path, and they started going keri. What's keri? Keri is the opposite of bitachon. Keri means mikre. So the word mikre means just a coincidence. Exactly. It so happened. So when you notice Hashem in everything, you see Hashem is just with you every step of the way. That's the opposite of keri. That's when you have bitachon in Hashem. When they started seeing keri, they started to degenerate, and they fell down until the 10th month. The 10th month is Asara B'Tevet, because Tevet is the 10th month of the year. What's this keri? Keri is that essentially what you want to be able to do is to find Hashem's presence in everything. What you want is to be able to notice God every step of the way, in every tiny little thing that happens. When you don't, the result is Asara B'Tevet. So what is Asara B'Tevet, essentially? It's commemorating the beginning of the time when we lost our connection. We were no longer plugged in. And why are we here to commemorate Asara B'Tevet? What is the fast of Asara B'Tevet about? It's about us getting back on track and be able to find the presence of Hashem again. That which we lost, to be able to rediscover and to be able to reconnect. Essentially what it was when there was a Beit HaMikdash is there was a holy space in this world. There was like a holy zone. If you were able to go into a holy zone once in a while, then it has an effect on your whole life. Everything's different. It's like you need a daven. If you don't daven, you don't have that specialness of just feeling Hashem's presence for that moment. It's a difficult day. It's much easier to have a good day if you spend those moments of holiness davening. When there was a Beit HaMikdash, in space, we had that space of holiness. And then we lost it. Why did we lose it? Because during the time of the Beit HaMikdash, the people started to, it's interesting how Yirmiyahu says it. He says, Panu elai oref. He says, you're turning to me with your back. Oref velo panim. So what does that mean? Panim is when I look at you, I look at your face. I see you. Oref is your back. I don't see you, I see your back. Hashem is upset with us. Why? What's Yirmiyahu saying? He's saying, only like spouses understand this, wives understand this concept. You tell it to men, they don't know what you're talking about. But the idea is that it's like, I don't know what, but everything's fine, but you're just not there. Like a woman says to her husband, she's like, I'm not sure. I don't know, but you're just not present. And he says, I don't know what the problem is. Everything's amazing. We're just doing great. Life is so unbelievable. Marriage is beautiful. Everything's wonderful.
Pretty sure I'm sitting right here in front of you. What's the problem?
That's Yirmiyahu's complaint. He says, you guys are unbelievable. You're just special. Lest we think the people in times of the Beit HaMikdash were these wicked people. The problem was, you're just not there. That's what he says, Panu elai oref. You're turning to me with your back. I don't feel your face. I don't feel your presence. What does it mean, your face? The panim is your pnimiyut. It's like, does this matter to you? Is this important to you? That's what it means to be in a space of panim. It's when you're present with me, when I see you and you see me. And that's what Hashem wants from us. And when he gets that, we have him in our lives. And life is a whole different world when you have God's presence with you. So, Asara B'Tevet is the day to go back to the beginning and to say, okay, let's go back to basics. What is it that we are supposed to be doing? And I don't even know what that means. To, like, imagine you're the husband and you're like, I don't know what it means. I don't know tell me what to do. I want to be turning to you, panim, in this marriage, but I don't know what you're talking about. So I don't know what you're saying. I'm here, I'm there, I'm doing everything. What do you want me to do? And it's a good question. What do you want me to do? Because when it's Hashem talking to us, suddenly it's like, I don't know. What am I not doing right? I'm a religious person. I keep the mitzvot. I daven. I do chesed. I learn Torah. I do everything right. So what's wrong? What am I doing wrong? And when we can discover what it means to have a relationship, it's a whole different world. Relationship is all the things you don't know what they mean. That's what relationship is. The rest of the stuff is just a to-do list. The relationship is the deep stuff. So there's this moment whereby, if you think of it as a very transitional moment in the Torah, what happens is, we've been reading the whole time Chumash Bereshit. Much more fun than the rest of... Let's call a spade a spade. The stories are really good. And then, like when you start Shmois, it's good stories, but very painful stories. And then it's just like, I don't know. The pain begins at the end of Chumash Bereshit. That's when it starts, the pain. What happened was, we living with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We living with people. These are our forefathers. These are the people who began the Jewish nation. These are the founders of the Jewish people. And so it's like, we live with them, and they're in our lives, and it feels so special to have the Avot. The what? Comforting, right? We have these people. Who are the Avot? So Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are considered to be vehicles to Hashem. Merkava. A vehicle to Hashem. When you get into your car doesn't argue with you. He just goes. You get in, he's not arguing with you. That's what the Avot were. The patriarchs were people who just felt God's presence without any issues. It's like they were just absolutely one with Hashem. And then began the next generation. And Yaakov's sons were all very holy, but not quite the same holiness as Yaakov. So they still saw him, but they didn't. When the Rambam begins to write about in the laws of Avodah Zarah, of how idol worship began, so he describes to us that there were these people, these holy people, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and then came, and they began Judaism, and they found Hashem. And then their children went one step lower, and then their children one step lower, until the generation that went into Mitzrayim forgot about Hashem completely. And then began the about phase. It was a rediscovery of a relationship with Hashem. that moment begins in our story this week in the parasha. What happens is Yaakov gathers all his sons together, and he looks at them and he says, this is a moment. I'm leaving. I'm going. And that means with me is going this whole ability to find Hashem and to know his presence. And so he says to them, I need to give you each a bracha. I need to empower you, to bless you, to give you power to be able to endure what's going to be a galut, what's going to be a harsh reality. And he says, what I want to do is I want to show you revelation. I want to show you how you could find God. So what happens as he does that? The Shekhinah leaves him. He loses Hashem's presence. And he looks at his children and he says, this is not good. The Shekhinah is always with me. If I don't feel Hashem's presence right now, that's not good. He says, is it possible that some of you are really idol worshippers? And they looked at him and they say, no, we're not idol worshippers. Absolutely not. They said to him, Shema Yisrael, listen, Yisrael, that's Yaakov, that's his name. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. We believe in Hashem Echad. We subscribe to it. We're the same as you. And he says, wow, Baruch Hashem, Kvod Malchuto Leolam Vayed. How amazing it is I can draw the bracha of Hashem down into the world, into the Olam, in a way that actually fits this world. Now, Yaakov did not for 1 second suspect his children of bowing down like that to idols, right? That's not what he suspected. Because he knew them, and he knew they were holy people. So what was his concern? His concern was not that they were idol worshippers in the normal sense of the word. His concern was, what does it mean to bow down to an idol? It means you could stand up in your presence, and then there's when you bow your head down. Have you ever bowed your head down to someone or to something? You ever seen how something outside suddenly dictates to you what to do and you bow down to him and you follow him? Like somebody insults you and you get insulted, and something happens that's frustrating and you get frustrated? That's called idol worship. If you're angry and upset and sad and worried and all those anxieties and stuff, that's all avodah zarah. Why? Because if you have Hashem Echad, then you're always present. It's always a relationship with one God. The second you lose it, you turn to the side. That's called bowing down your head. And so he says, I'm sensing in this room that some of the people, says Yaakov to his sons, that I'm sensing that Hashem Echad is not real over here. It's not fully real. And his children told him, they said, listen Yaakov, listen Israel, we're not the same as you. We don't have this naturally, this relationship with Hashem Echad. It comes from work by us. But ultimately, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. We fall and we rise. We are in a struggle to relate to Hashem. And it's okay to be in the struggle. And Yaakov says that's unbelievable. He says, Baruch Shem Kvod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. How amazing it is that we have these people who reveal the honor, the name of the glory of the kingdom of Hashem in the world. That's us. You know how we often talk about, now, like as generations go down, like, oh my gosh, the previous generation, they were so amazing. And in generations before, and we lost all the good people. Do you know that we've always been saying that? Throughout history, we've been saying that, okay, it's over, it's done. And somehow we're still here. We're still around. It's quite impressive. So, why is that? It's very simple. You know, this lady, a young man, and Bacher, once went to a nursing home, and there's older people there. So they like to talk with the young people. So this elderly woman turns to the young man, the young Bacher, and she says, are you married yet? He says, no. He says, do you want to get married? He says, of course. One day I'll get married. She says, good. And you want to have kids? He says, yeah. She says, how many kids do you want to have? He says, I want to have a lot of kids. How many? She says, at least 12. She says, wow, you are going to be a rich man. He says, why, thank you. That's amazing. Like, how do you know? She looks at him and she says, because you're going to have to be a rich man. In other words, if you're going to have a lot of kids, what choice do you have in the matter? You're going to have a lot of money. When generations go down and when we feel worse and lower, you know what we do? We don't sit there lamenting. We say, okay, we need extra power right now. We don't say, forget it, we're done. We say, okay, it's true. We don't have Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov now. Yeah, now what? So now we're going to have to look deep into ourselves. And what happens is, the lower you go, the greater the people who get there. And in that sense, our generation is the greatest generation. Because who else do you think would have survived with social media and everything else that we have nowadays and still be present? It's impressive. It's amazing. But what we want to do is learn how to do this. Because in the previous generation, they just did it naturally because they didn't have the same challenges we have. So when you look at your kids sometimes and you wonder, whoa, what these kids are going through now. Yeah. Yep. That's tough.
Empathy.
And then you say, okay, it's amazing to see that Hashem can come down even to that level. So Yaakov turns to his sons and he says, okay, I need to break this down. I need to break down relationship. Not something I've ever done before. I made assumptions. I assumed Hashem in my life. I assumed it. But what I have to do now, I see, is to break it down so that we can build it step by step and discover how we find Hashem's presence. So what does Yaakov do? He calls all his sons together. He had 12 children. He summoned them all together and he said, let me give you each a special bracha. Incredible how a father gets each of his kids and he looks at them and he gives an individual customized blessing. He says, here's what I want to tell you, specific and unique to you. And he knows them really, really well. But there's another way of looking at the story. And we're going to take a look at a little bit of a different, deeper dimension of the story. And that is that in this process of customizing the bracha to each one, what he's also doing is breaking down a systematic approach of how you children who are not me are going to be able to get to the same level as me. It's just 12 steps, 12 children. Each one of them is another step. But the program ultimately arrives at the same Yaakov. So when you look at the brachas of Yaakov, what he's really doing is breaking it down into a 12-tribe program of finding Hashem's presence and relating to God in your life. So what I want to do now is break down. We don't have time for all 12, but we'll do the first few. And what we want to see is, so how do we find this relationship with Hashem? How do we bring Hashem down? The answer is going to be, let's try the first 4. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. What you want to do is first be a Reuven, then be a Shimon, proceed to Levi, arrive at Yehuda, and there you go. And it's fascinating to learn how each one of them, by very virtue of the name, is actually something for us. Because see, the Torah is always Torah is hora'ah. It's an instruction. It's not a storybook. It's being presented in story format for you to apply it in your life right now. So the process and the steps is as follows. Step 1. Well, the first child was Reuven. Why was he called Reuven? Remember? Because Reuven. Look, a son. His mother Leah was excited. She was the first who gave birth to anyone. And she says, this is amazing. My husband will have no choice now but to love me because I gave birth to a child. Reuben, she says, Ki ata ye'ehavani ishi. Now, my husband will love me. So, Reuven is indicative and representative of seeing and loving. Unlike Shimon, what does Shimon mean? Shmiya. Shimon is hearing. She says, Shimon ki shama Hashem, ki snua anochi. Hashem heard that I am hated. So Reuben and Shimon are seeing and hearing. The first step in our service of Hashem is to see Hashem and to hear Him. So what happens is this. You know, when you have Hashem's presence in your life, you ever had those moments when you just feel connected? It's like feeling attached. It's a wonderful, exhilarating, euphoric feeling if you have it. An experience of just being present and connected. When you don't have it, what do you feel? Empty. Exactly. And that emptiness is והבור ריק אין בו מים, אבל נחשים ועקרבים יש בו. When there's no water, when there's no sense of Torah, which is water, what do you have? All the snakes and scorpions fester inside there. That's where all the negativity comes about. And it's so tough because you just feel like so gloomy and sad. You know, someone was describing to me a moment. It's such a powerful scene. He says it was in the middle of Corona, and he says he's already, you know, in his, 40-year-old guy, and he's like built a business, and already before Corona, this very, very successful business was falling apart. And he said, I'm living in my house, beautiful house that I built, but I can't pay for it anymore. And I don't have anything. And then Corona, like, buried him in the ground. It, like, destroyed him completely. And it's the beginning of Corona when there's an absolute loss, doesn't know what to do, where to do, why. But he decided one thing, you know what, I'm keeping my schedule. My regimen, what I'm doing, I'm keeping. So he decides to keep the same thing going on. Says he used to go to Vasikin every day. So he wakes up early in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, he's up. And I wake up, it's pitch black outside, dark. And I come down into the kitchen, making my coffee, about to get ready for the day. For the day, you know, I'm going to daven in my room, and this is the way it is right now. And he's like, I come down there, and I saw the darkness outside, and for a moment, the darkness outside, it just came in. I felt like this thing just jumped into my head, and the whole darkness was inside me. And I felt like a panic and a terror. That like, it feels like everything's falling apart. And suddenly, like, he says, it's just like, it's a real black feeling. Anyone who describes that feeling, it's a feeling of black gloominess, darkness. It's a sorry, sad state to be in. And he's like, I just sat there and I was just like, felt absolutely hopeless and absolutely helpless. And it was this moment, he's like, and everything I'd learned at that moment, I like, okay, this is time to, it's like when you hit that wall and you realize I'm stuck. There's nothing I can do. And at that moment, he's like, I just felt, you know what? This is what it's all about. Everything I've learned, everything I've been taught about Hashem, it's for this moment. And then, like he said, I sat down to daven and I just said, you know what, Hashem, I'm totally lost, and I just let you in. And I just accepted this darkness in my life, and I pushed my way through, and I just davened anyway, and something unbelievable happened. The darkness just disappeared. It was almost like it flipped the lights on and the darkness disappeared. And it just didn't make any sense. As soon as I accepted it, I was able to push forward. That process is so hard and so tough and so difficult, and most of us have no clue how to do that when we get to those dark spaces. We don't know what to do. The steps to do are Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. And then you can get to become sons of Yaakov. Step 1, Reuven. Step 1 is, how do you express love? What's the most incredible basic way to express your love for someone else? A gift is one way. Hugging. Even before that. Listen. One step earlier. Eyes. Lock eyes. When Shlomo HaMelech wants to describe love, he says, Einayich yonim. He describes the two doves, because dove is that one animal that has one mate. And he says it's about being able to gaze and stare at the other person with love And it's such a powerful experience. If you ever remember that moment, right? The first love, it happened, I hope, when you had that locking in of eyes. When you're able to see, seeing brings about a love between two people. But seeing does not necessarily have to be done with eyes. There's another way to see. It's called Ein HaSeichel. The eye, you can actually see it, right? You see it, like you say to someone, do you see it or not?
Understand.
Seeing is what we use for understanding, but it's not understanding. It's a deep form of understanding. It's, I get it. That's called seeing it. I see it means I see, yes. Not seeing with your physical eyes. I see with my mind's eye. We call it a mind's eye in English. Because it's an ability to see and to sense something. You can't exactly see Hashem. Lo yirani adam v'chai. You can't see him. But what you could do is intellectually arrive at a relationship with Hashem and be able to gaze and see Hashem, right? We do that with our loved ones sometimes. If you love someone and they're not present in front of you, they just sit down and you just, ponder them and imagine them. And then you start seeing the person. And then they can actually talk to you. And then you actually gaze at them. And it brings about real feelings of love and longing. And it's a very powerful tool to use in life. It's how you build relationships. In our relationship with Hashem, you can do the exact same thing. And it begins in a relationship with Hashem. Because that's your anchor. That's the only thing that's going to really survive and last, is your relationship with Hashem. So every morning, when we wake up in the morning, what we Jews do is we gaze at Hashem in our mind's eye. It's called shacharit. It's how you begin your day, right? It says, Vayashkem Avraham Baboker, it says. What's Vayashkem Avraham Baboker? What does it mean? Avraham woke up in the morning, right? Okay, so what should I do with that information? Vayashkem Avraham Baboker is a very big instruction in life. You have Avraham. Avraham is chesed, love. You want to wake up Avraham in your morning. It means to wake up. You want to do it. You want to wake up, ignite the love in the morning. And then it says, Vayachavosh et chamoro. You can harness your, what's chamoro? Your donkey, chumriyut. Materialism is very strong. If you engage your sense of ahavat Hashem, of love for Hashem, you have a harnessing of the donkey. Here's what we want to do. We want to wake up the love in the morning and arrive at a relationship. Now let's just see first, before we see how to do it, let's see what the result would be. What does the result look like if you feel Hashem's love, loving, looking at you every step of the way? So some moments in life are beautiful. They're like such fun. You see, everything's going well. They're great moments. And then there's those moments when, What do you feel in those moments? Your heart feels down and you get broken, right? Imagine you would be able to see past the brokenness and to find Hashem inside the brokenness. Again, not that Hashem is able to take away the brokenness. One step before that He's with you in your grief. That He's saying, you're crying, I'm crying with you. I'm not saying don't cry. I'm saying, Imo anochi v'tzara. Let's cry together. That's how you express love for someone. That's a relationship. Relationship doesn't mean that you say, I'm here to take away your pain. Relationship is, I feel your pain. I am with you in your pain. When you have Hashem and He feels you and you feel Hashem in your life, that's called gazing at Hashem. Suddenly you look and you say, you're with me here? Like I thought Hashem, that you were this mighty, powerful being up there, and that you're from above and you can do anything, and I just ask you, and you're the big guy, and I'm the helpless individual. And then you discover that Hashem says, you didn't understand me. I don't think you got me. I'm not just up there on top. I'm in the trenches. Feel your pain. I got you. I'm with you right where you are. And that's so comforting to know that Hashem is right there inside with me. Every morning we wake up that experience inside of us. How do we do it? So we daven. And davening, you can't just, once upon a time, davening used to be just say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and that's it. But we can't just do that. It doesn't work. So we have to prepare. We have to ready ourselves. And the readiness is called Pesukei de Zimra. What's Pesukei de Zimra? What's English? Pesukei de Zimra, what does it mean? The song, right? Zimra, anyone speak Hebrew? What else does Lezamer? What does it mean?
Praise?
To praise, but what else? What? To cut, yes. To prune. To prune. Now, in Lashon HaKodesh, the Holy Tongue is very exact in everything it does. Why is the same word as singing the word to prune, to cut? You know why? Because when you sing, you cut off all your problems. That's why. That's exactly what happens. Problems happen when you're sad. But when you're singing, suddenly you're like, what was the issue?
Also, you can't be sad and singing at the same time.
Yes. Psukei de Zimra are these verses of getting attached and connected to something high and to Hashem. What we're trying to do is this. You see, it's a very important message and a very difficult message to appreciate and to internalize because it requires a lot of intellectual thinking. Where is Hashem, right? Where is Hashem?
All over.
Everywhere. All over, of course. But what does that mean? It means that the world is, it's really in a sense non-existent. Hashem is reality. And the world is called Olam. What does Olam mean? A concealment. The place where Hashem ne'elam, you don't see him. So Hashem is everywhere, he's everything, and you don't see him. When you don't see him, what do you get? Concealment, problems. But really, what is the world? It's a tzimtzum. It's a small, tiny limitation. Hashem is right present with you. He's inside, he's everywhere. Wherever you go, you have Hashem. That's the problem. That you live in the Olam, and so you don't see him. So the whole Psukei de Zimra is about, it's like a song. Like, wow, this is amazing. You're saying that Hashem is right present with me every step of the way. And when you daven and you look at him, you see Hashem, you find Hashem in everything. And so, wow, I see God here, I see God there, I see him in everything. In case you're wondering if Hashem is in everything, take a look at simple basic things. What do we speak about? Nature. Eish, uvarad, sheleg, v'kitor, ruach, se'ara, usad dvaro. How does it suddenly hail comes down and then there's fire and then there's the snow and like, what do you think it is? Science. Sure. Yes, but what's behind science? What's the force that's operating behind it? And it's not just that Hashem is just there. It's that it's a lot deeper. Step one is in Psukei de Zimra is seeing Hashem everywhere in the world. And then we go and we realize that the whole world is just a place where Hashem removed himself. And the reason why he removed himself was, as we say in Ashrei, Malchutcha Malchut Kol Olamim. The reason why there's Olamim, there's worlds, is to make you a Melech, Malchutcha, to make you into a king, is why there's a world. Every parent who sits first time taking their child on a bicycle, and you're sitting and you're putting this child on a bike, and you're like, come on, go. And then you're like, and you want to stay there. And then you're like, okay, I'm letting go. And you let go, and the kid falls and scrapes all over and comes crying, Mommy, why'd you let me go? And Mommy knows that I let you go so that you can learn how to ride a bike yourself. Because what you want is independence, to figure it out yourself. What Hashem did is exactly that. He says, I want to be a melech. You know how I become a melech? By making olam. By hiding. Let's play a game. It's called hide and seek. I'll hide, you seek me, and I'll go, woo! You know, kids like to play a game. You ever seen? They love this game. It's like one of the most favorite games of kids. And yeah, adults, it's the most exciting thing about adults when they realize that the kids actually like, oh. So you go like this and you hide your thing, right? And what happens? And the kid thinks you're not there. Because they don't get that when you're just, it's your hands. It's also you. And then you go, peekaboo. And then like so excited, it's the most glorious thing in the world. Well, Hashem is playing that game with us too, as adults. It's the same game. He's there. He's right present in your face. In front of you. But you're a human being and you don't see that. So you think he's hiding. And it's scary. And you start to like cry and you wonder, where is Hashem? And think of the adult who's looking at the kid like, what are you getting? I'm right here. Like I didn't go away. Yeah, but I don't see you. I don't see your panim. I don't see your face. So if I don't see your face, I feel lost. In that feeling, a lot of feelings come about. A lot of negative feelings happen right over there. Our process is to sing through the feelings. And what does that mean? That means to say, okay, what I'm feeling right now is scared, helpless, darkness. But I davened in the morning and I know that it's not really dark. Hashem is right here. He is just playing a game of hide and seek. And he's right there. So find him. How do you find Hashem? It's so simple. All you gotta do is start to sing. How do you do it? So you can actually try this. It's amazing how it works. You sit there and you accept what you're feeling. You're like, okay, so I'm feeling sad. The more you can identify and crystallize how you feel, the exact feeling, the more powerful your response can be. So I'm feeling this darkness and I'm feeling a sense of grief. Okay, that's what I have, feeling that. That's the hands that are covering the eyes. Now what you want to do is say, right, the 2-year-old like looks at, Mommy, I know you're there. Like of course you're there. And the more you look, then Mommy goes peekaboo. Yes. Want to play peekaboo with Hashem? It's very simple. You say, Hashem, I'm looking at you. I don't see you, but I see you in my mind's eye. Because I davened in the morning and I learned that Hashem is everywhere and I internalized it. You didn't learn it yesterday. Doesn't help to daven yesterday. You got to daven today. There's new issues going on today. See, when I daven today and just gaze at Hashem in your mind's eye, and there's a whole long davening where you think about Him in every single way possible. And then what do? You say, wow, I'm seeing that Hashem is actually right here. So this is interesting because I'm feeling this grief and I'm feeling it, but you're telling me that that's olam and Hashem is right here. Now try it out. Feel that feeling, the darkness that you're feeling, and then say, Hashem, I, in my mind's eye, am going to gaze at you right now. And then you'll break through the facade that's covering Hashem. It sounds like a dream. It works. Try it out. As soon as you accept the feeling, the helem that's covering over you, then you see Hashem, because Hashem is right present inside you. But He wants you to make Him into a melech. He wants you to ride the bike yourself. The only reason there's a lack of Hashem in your life is so that you can bring Him down. We're not answering any questions. We're just getting Hashem to be right present with us in the moment, in the feeling of grief. Nobody wants to know when they're in a situation of a difficult situation. You don't want to know, and what's the reason why Hashem did this to me? That doesn't matter. What you want to know is that Hashem is feeling you. That's comforting. So you feel the feeling that's bothering you, and then you say, okay, here I feel Hashem. You know what this is? This is a mitzvahs asay deraisa. It's a mitzvah that the Torah commands us. What does Torah say to do? It says when you finish Psukei de Zimra and the whole preparation, you close your eyes and you say, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. I get that Hashem is Echad. Where is Echad? Echad is right here. And then the rest of your day, you're going to look for Him in whatever's going on in that moment. And you're going to say, Baruch Shem, Kvod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed, I'm drawing him down, I'm realizing his presence right here. That's what Yaakov is telling his children. And what happens? Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha. There's two ways to feel a love for Hashem. One is when things are awesome and great and that's amazing. When your godly soul is feeling Hashem is wonderful. But when you're not, well, that calls for b'chol levavcha. Bishnei yitzarecha. The goal is to feel Hashem's presence in both your inclinations, your nefesh elokit and your nefesh ba'amit, your yetzer tov and your yetzer hara. Your evil inclination should also feel Hashem. Who is He? He's that one who makes you sad all the time. And that sadness, you say, I feel it. And I feel Hashem is right here, ever present in my life, in this moment. And it's uplifting. Because you feel just this feeling of absolute love. Just, yeah, I see Hashem in this. And it's just, wow. Feel His presence. The first portion of the Shema, what is it? It's the seeing of Hashem. And therefore you love. Seeing is loving. Gaze at Hashem. How do you gaze at Hashem? You stare at Him in the morning, you say, I see God's presence. And then when He's hiding, you say, I know you're hiding. I know you're just playing with me. And it's so tough, because it's so easy to say it in a game, and it's so sweet when you tell your baby, you don't get that mommy's here, and like you don't see that this... And then when you're an adult and you realize you're doing the exact same thing. Because He's right there. And you just want to be able to gaze at Him and to see Him. That's step one, Ruvain. So then what happens? You're like, okay, so it feels like I go to May. Go to Hashem's presence. You know, they tell a story about the Baal Shem Tov and his students once went to learn bitachon in Hashem, to learn trust in Hashem from a particular innkeeper. So they arrived at this guy's inn. They stayed by him, and they saw a guy came, a very stern-looking individual, clearly a Gentile who had a lot of power, walked inside and he knocks on the door. And the innkeeper opens the door, and he looks and he sees this guy, and the Baal Shem Tov and his students are watching, and he says, the innkeeper looks and he says, I got it. He tells the guy, and he closes the door and the guy goes. They said to him, what was that about? He said, oh, that is the policeman. He's coming from the local squire, the local pirates, and he's come to collect his rent. I haven't paid rent in a few months, and this is the end. When he comes with that, it means that if you don't pay, you're dead. So he said, do you have the money? He says, of course I do. Hashem is going to give it to me. But how much do you actually have now? He says, it's a round number. I have nothing. The guy walks away. He says he's going to come back 3 times. After 3 times, you got to go pay. Hashem is absolutely present with me. The guy goes out, and a few hours later, they're waiting, and sure enough, they knock on the door again. And the guy comes again, and the same thing. He says, I'm coming. They say, what do you have? And the guy's as calm as you could ever get. He has not a worry in his life. And he's just so happy and in a state of absolute euphoria. And he goes out, and the guy comes back. He comes back, and he says, no worries. A few hours later, he comes back, knock on the door. He says, I'm coming. And the innkeeper goes out, puts his hat and jacket and coat on, and he's going. And the Baal Shem Tov and his students are like, what are you doing? He said, I got to go pay my bills now. So now I have to go. Meaning, now's the moment. So what's going to happen? He said, I don't know. I told you. Hashem is with me. I'm going to pay my bill. I'm going. So he goes, and they watch him from afar, and they see him as he goes. You know, the policeman's already gone ahead, and he's running. He's coming after. And he arrives, and as he goes, he stops, and this carriage stops by him, and they see the carriage stops, and there's like a conversation going on, and and then the carriage leaves, and he carries on walking on the road, and the carriage turns around, does a U-turn, and comes back to him, and they see an exchange, and the guy gives him a sack of something, and then he keeps on going. So the carriage comes towards the inn, and they go over and they see what's going on, and they ask the guy in the carriage, what happened then? He says, I'll tell you what happened. I need to buy whiskey. This guy sells whiskey. So I wanted to make a deal with him. And I know he's a trustworthy guy, so I really wanted to make a big deal. So I offered him a nice amount. And he told me, no, I'm not accepting it because it's worth more money. So I said, okay, sei gesund, and I left. And he kept on going. Then I realized that he's right, and he's an honest, honorable kind of guy. And so I decided, you know what? Okay. I turned around, gave him the money. They asked him how much money was it, and what did they discover? The exact amount of money that he needed. The guy goes to the poritz, pays him, comes back, he says, what's the problem? When I need to get, Hashem gives me. Are you able to live your life like that? In the sense of absolutely seeing Hashem's presence all the way, every single step. A friend of mine, I'm in the middle of a discussion with him. So we're talking about bitachon, trust in Hashem, and there's a whole conversation going on. And he tells me, okay, I got a problem. I got to pay my bills now. I'm literally in a bad space. I need to pay my bills now. I don't have the money to pay my bills now. So I decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like right now and do what I got to do, meaning I'm going to go beg, borrow, steal in that kind of way. And once I have enough money to survive for 2 months, then I'm going to go working on my bitachon, on my trust in Hashem. Do you see what we have? This is not a game. It's not like some kind of what's it called? Scientology. That if you trust in Hashem, you're good. It's quite simple. Where do you think everything you have comes from? It's like, oh, I thought I was in control, and yeah, but this little thing is maybe, so where's Hashem making it from? Get with the program. He's with you all the time. Every single thing you have, there is nothing you have that you got of your own. Sometimes it feels like you got it on your own, and sometimes you get to see. All the time, Hashem is right there, right present, in that space with you, and you want to just get in and understand that He's right here with me. So the first step is, the Ruvain is to see Hashem. The second step is the Shimon. Shimon is very simple. Shimon is, Shama Hashem kisnu'a anochi, Hashem heard me. What does it mean to hear? See, seeing is gazing, is being present. Hearing is a distance. When you hear, it's because you can't see. You can hear from much further than you can see, right? Hearing is when you don't see someone, you hear them. Hearing is a distance from Hashem. What happens to us is we get to think in life, you know what? So Hashem is with me, so everything's fine, so it's great. So it's all going to be amazing. In order to be a person who can get Hashem's love, you have to actually expect that you don't deserve anything. It's when you distance yourself from Hashem. So on the one hand, you said, Hashem is with me, everything's amazing, everything's incredible, I see Hashem's presence. Yes, and then you know what you do? You say, I don't really deserve anything. And I'm like, whatever you give me, Hashem, is okay. I'm fine with whatever you give me. That's the shmiyah. That's the distancing yourself from Hashem. That's vayayim shamoah tishmuah mitzvotai, right? You distance yourself from God. Because when you get everything you want from Hashem, when you know He's present with you in your life, but you're not sitting over there telling Him what to give you. It's the opposite of what people think. Tracht gut wird sein gut does not mean think that it's going to be good and then it'll be good. It means think that it is good. Now, whatever Hashem is giving you is good. And then you'll get the things afterwards. So when something bad happens, you say, I'm amazed that Hashem is always with me. And find something good in what happened. So when you're not expecting it, then you get it. So it's like when you have a dream, you say, Hashem, I want this dream. I know you're giving it to me. And then put it aside and expect it not to happen actually. Ruvain is seeing God in everything. Shimon is, how dare I feel that I deserve. So you pull back. That's your Shimon. That's step 2. Step 3 is the combination of both together. It's called Levi. When Leah had a son called Levi, what did she say? Hapam yilave ishi elai. Maze ishi? My husband. But isn't it funny how ishi is the same word as my fire? My fire. Ruvain was Ra'a Hashem be'oni ki ata ye'avani ishi. Levi is yilave ishi elai. What is that? It's the fire that I feel A fire in your life is when you're excited. That's what we're looking for. We're looking to be happy and excited and feel good about ourselves. If you see Hashem in every little thing that happens and you don't expect it, Reuben and Shimon, you get to become one with Hashem. That's Levi. You get to feel that Hashem is just amazing every step of the way with me. So I don't know what's going to happen when I'm going out to meet the guy, to pay the guy, the landlord, the thing. I know Hashem is with me. I know whatever's going to be, it's going to be good. I'm not expecting anything. I have zero expectations. I'm helpless. Then you go and you're an absolute Levi. You have Hashem is just with you every step of what you do. And just to run through, I'm out of time, but Yehuda. What's Yehuda? Yehuda means to praise. Yehuda also means acknowledge. Ani modeh. Hapam odeh et Hashem. Yehuda is a whole different thing. You know, when you ever see these holograms where you look at a pattern and you don't see anything and it looks like it's just a mishmash, and then you look and you're trying to figure out something, and then you just focus, unfocus, and you suddenly see, and then suddenly after a while you unfocus and you get it and you're like, oh my, look what's there, and you suddenly see this amazing pastoral image behind this crazy pattern, and you're like looking at it, it's unbelievable, and you're sitting next to someone else and they say you don't see anything. It just looks like a mishmash. And you saw it. This world is exactly that. We live in this world and we start to think that the goal is to be successful, to make money, to have this, to have all the things you want. And if you do this, Hashem will give this to you. And Hashem is like, there's another picture behind this world. This world, you know what it is? It's a space where me and you are one. And I'm one with you the whole time. But you don't see it, and you have sometimes challenges in life because you're not noticing that I'm with you. I'm in the scene. I'm in the image, absolutely with you. Nothing else is going on but me. That's when you are modeh to Hashem, when you acknowledge, when you realize Hashem's presence in everything. But we don't know how to do it constantly. But every so often the light goes on as a lightning and you say, Hapa'am odeh et Hashem, is what Leah said. Now, for a moment, I got to see, wow, crystal clarity. How do you get to Yehuda? Yaakov says, Yehuda, ata yoducha achecha. He says, you get to him if you go through your brothers. You go through Reuven, and it's hard work. You don't need to work on anything else in your life, really, but this. This is the main work of life. It's every time something happens, you keep on going in life, wherever Hashem sends you, and you feel whatever feelings are going on, you get in touch with your feelings, and you feel b'chol levavcha, Hashem is right present with me, I see Hashem, I gaze at Hashem. That's the hardest one. Then you stop expecting anything, and you whatever Hashem, it's fine, it's all good. That's the Shmiya. You get to walk in a Levi space, which is feel Hashem all the way right there. And then what happens? You start seeing a new image, a new picture of life. They call it a matrix, I think. It's when you start realizing, oh, gosh, I didn't get it. You mean this whole thing was just one little, just a space where it's me and Hashem, and Hashem looks like he's gone, and it's really present, and it's all one with Hashem. Yep, that's what life was about. Ein oid milvadoi. There's nothing besides Hashem. And that's why it says, in Yaakov's bracha, he says, Yehuda ata yoducha achecha, yadcha be'oref oivecha. Suddenly you'll hit the oref as the back. Yirmiyahu was lamenting to the Jewish people, and he said, guys, you're not seeing me, you're not present. And they say, what do you mean? We're doing everything good. You're frustrated, and you're sad sometimes, and you're angry, all those negative feelings. That's what I'm talking about. That's when I feel the oref. I don't feel like you're looking and staring at me, you're not seeing me. And what I want is, you should stop facing backwards. You're a frum Jew, you're a religious Jew, you keep Torah, you do mitzvahs, but I'm not present in your life. And what do I mean by not present? I mean, I want you and me to reach the point where you just always in such a state of simcha, just feeling so good about yourself, feeling connected all the time. Can't do it all the time. Every time you do it, it's awesome. That's called yadcha be'oref oivecha. Who are your enemies? All those little guys, that fellow in your head who gets inside and drives you nuts, that's your enemies. And when you have Yehuda, when you are modeh to Hashem, when you start realizing Hashem in your life, and you get to this space, Yaakov is saying, that's how I break it down. I break it down that when there's a galut, when there's an exile, when we fall into a relationship with Hashem that's gone, and we see that with social media and all the problems. And the problems are exacerbated by a million different things that we have. And we say, wow, that means we're going to see Hashem much more than ever before. Hashem is in the trenches with us. But we want to break it down feeling by feeling. This is not about, and Hashem is with me. No, it's every time something happens. It's to feel, yes, I felt I'm lost. Tug at Hashem, tug at him. Ruvain, and then you say Shimon, yes, and it's difficult, yes, and I'm feeling Hashem's presence, and slowly but surely you'll get to a Yehuda ata yeducha achecha, yodcha b'oyer foivecha, you'll start seeing your enemies from the back and Hashem from the front, because you'll get good at it, and you'll get used to it. It doesn't go away, you never succeed in overcoming the problem until Mashiach comes. But in the meantime, what we have is, Asara B'Teves is a time for us to get together and to be mindful of how Hashem never left us. And he's always with us. And it's just, we lost the Beis HaMikdash, that we could find Hashem in a deeper way. And that's our Avodah, that's our work. Yaakov broke it down for his children. He says, step by step, it's hard work because you don't have a Beis HaMikdash. It's not hard work because I don't love you. It's hard work because I love you more than ever. And that's your work, to find Hashem.
Thank you.